West Tigers fans, welcome to another edition of the Coaches Report with Adel, Hage, coming in from up there in Queensland late on a Sunday night, very late. We appreciate Rob and Adel coming in, but with the Lachlan Galvin news this evening, or today rather, happening. It's a buy round. I mean, this West Tigers club is always something to talk about, so plenty to discuss tonight. Before we get into the show, we do have a new sponsor for the Coaches Report. Welcome to the Gym Direct. So if you are looking to set up a home gym, you can go to westtigers.com.au. There's a nice button there to go to our landing page on Gym Direct, and you can get 5% off with the code WTLGD5. The code's there on the button that you can use to get 5% off. Or if you're a personal trainer, you can actually get 10% off. So welcome to Gym Direct for joining the Coaches Report and sponsoring the West Tigers Life podcast going forward. And let's get straight into it. Mr. Bashara, how are you this evening?
I'm well, Josh. How are you?
And Adel, thank you for coming in late on a Sunday night.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, it's been an interesting day, hasn't it, in the rugby league world?
All right, take it away, Mr. Bashara.
Okay, Adel, well, we've heard the latest news. According to most of the reports, the speculation is getting stronger that Lachlan Galvin has agreed to a 3.5-year deal with the Canterbury Bulldogs. Hasn't been released by what I'd call the Isaac Moses puppet media, such as Brent Reid. So I think until Brent Reid releases it, it's not official yet. But all roads seem to be leading now to Belmore. Parramatta came in with a late offer, I believe, yesterday, perhaps for an extra 100,000. It's being speculated, but it seems like Galvin is going to go to Canterbury, which we're not surprised about because that's what we had kind of heard. What are we talking now, Adel? 6 or 7 weeks ago. Then there was a little bit of a switch maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that it was definitely Parramatta. But again, it looks like the maestro, Phil Gould, has played everyone for fools and kept it quiet while Canterbury chugged along to the top of the ladder. But now it's going to come back into full swing, and hopefully there'll be a little bit of heat on Gould. Not that he's done anything legally wrong, but I think morally, given his position with Canterbury, using his media position to court one of the best young players in the game and basically encourage him not to re-sign for the last 6 months. I think it's quite a low act, but he's within his rights to do that. But I think one thing it's safe for everyone to say now is you just don't trust the word Phil Gould. As likeable as he is, as knowledgeable as he is, and he's done it all. He's been a player. He's been a coach at NRL level, won premierships, Origin level, one of the best coaches ever. But you just can't trust a word he says. He plays everyone for fools. He manipulates the media, manipulates players, manipulates people, and he's going to get his way. And I'm sure he'll come on 100% footy tomorrow night and speak in his lovely little soft tone and make out like he's Mr. Innocent and come up with all the bullshit that he normally does. But he's got his way, Adel. So how do you think of all that with Canterbury and Galvin, and how does Galvin fit into Canterbury in your opinion?
Well, yeah, so a lot of the unpack of what you just said. First thing, I've made it clear to you, look, I think Gould's done nothing wrong. Like, in my eyes, he's done his job for his club. I don't think there's a conflict of interest with his role in the on TV and what he does. But if we can all have that, I think from our perspective, we can't allow that to also affect our theory. I mean, at the end of the day, our CEO owns a player management company and is the CEO of our club. So there's probably more conflict of interest in that, technically, if you want to really go down that path. But since this happened this afternoon, I was actually at footy today, and we had a 2-hour drive on the bus home, and I started reading a lot of text messages and whatnot throughout our sort of WhatsApp groups and all that sort of stuff from people who are very much in connection with the Bulldogs club. And then I also read, or I listened to posts by Shamus and Weidler, and then listen to what Gus had to say. To me, it seems like the Galvin camp has decided we're going to go to the Bulldogs. That's the decision that's been made. Now, what Gus has basically said is he has indicated to us that he's made a decision to come to the Bulldogs, so we'll accommodate that. But the contracts and everything hasn't been sorted because at the end of the day, you can't actually say nothing because he's technically still under contract with us. So until the Tigers actually give him a formal release, they've conditionally said, we will release you under these terms. Now, those terms still need to be met for them to then agree to release him. Now, I think we need to be a little bit more. I don't understand the number that's been advertised. I mean, usually this sort of stuff, it comes out. So $165,000 is the number. Carl Oluwapu went to the Bulldogs for $500,000. He hadn't even played a game of first grade. I'm guessing that over time they realised that that was way too much money. But if I'm Richo, I turn around now, and now that they come and officially say, the Bulldogs say, approach us and say, okay, we're going to take him off your hands for the rest of this year. Yeah, and that's all that matters to us. It's the rest of this year and next year. What happens after that is irrelevant because he's not contracted to us. We'll pay the $165,000. I'd turn around and say it's now $300,000. Now that I know that he's found a club, it's been done in a week since this. In 5-6 days, this has all been done. There's no rules in this war. The lines were drawn out months ago when the Galvin camp decided to do what they did. I'd change it to 300,000, and I'm just throwing a number out there. But I'd change it. I'd move the goalposts on them again. Now, the Bulldogs then may turn around, and this is why Gus is saying that we'll try to accommodate him, because if the Tigers turn around and say, I mean, yeah, we agreed to that, but we've changed our position because every day things move. What I'd love to see is it happened with other players. Remember it happened with Sonny Bill when he left. He had to buy himself out. So if the Tigers agree to 165 or the Bulldogs, agree to 165 and the Tigers want 300, well, what needs to happen is the Galvin camp should buy out the rest of the contract or the rest of the transfer fee and pay for it themselves. Because at the end of the day, what we're seeing now, this is not about money, which is crazy. The fact that the type of money he's turning down, guaranteed money he's turning down, is absolutely crazy. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But whatever. I'd like to see us stand firm on this. Like, I don't. There has to be, Rob. There has to be something with this court case. There's got to be something.
That's what I was just about to ask you. That's what I was going to ask you, Adel, because as you said, 165 sounds like a pittance. It's fair to say, look, no matter what you think of this situation, Shane Richardson is one of the best operators going around, and he's negotiated more than most CEOs ever have. What have Canterbury, what have the Moses camp, what's Galvin, what have they got on us? It's like we assumed we were going to get a player, or he's just going to hold on because he's on our books for such a cheap price, being roughly around the 350 mark per season for this year and next year. It seems to me that there is something from our end that we're trying to hide, or they've got us by the short and curlies, and we're in a position now where we have to let him go, or else. Another thing too, Adel, Richo's always pretty transparent. He'll come out in the open, or he'll put a statement out, or he'll do a 5-minute behind the raw spiel and give you a reason. He's super quiet about this. So I think you're right. I mean, is it just a court case? Do you think perhaps there's some of the truth to any of the bullying rumours or anything like that? He realises, like, they've got some evidence that we can't deny, and he doesn't want to put the club through the embarrassment of a long-winded court case?
I mean, mate, look, the game as a whole is about to go through a landmark case with the Jackson Torpenny case with the Bulldogs at the moment. Like, I know there's not much media about it, but if he wins that case, that changes the landscape of rugby league for a long time. So I've been around rugby league long enough for it to have been something so serious that it's got to this. There's no way Galvin would still be turning up the training. So there may be like things where you can technically say it's bullying, but not to the extent where someone, you're fearing a court case. Like, surely not. Like, surely we've got to have a little bit more resolve and trust in ourselves that we're being held to ransom. Like, I just can't believe that this is the case in this situation. I don't have the answer. I actually genuinely don't understand what it could be, because, like, sometimes you think to yourself, if we had 29 contracts, if we had 30 spots and we wanted to sign someone and we're trying to vacate a spot, I can understand that. But we've only got 28 or 29 contracted top 30 players, so it's not like we need the roster space. I honestly don't know. Like, I've tried asking some questions. The good thing about our club is you don't get anything out of our club at the moment. Like, everyone keeps everything very close to their chest, which is a good thing. I tried to get some stuff out of people who are connected with the Galvin camp, and also people out of the Bulldogs, to find out, what other information we can get. There's not much there, to be honest with you. It's an interesting one. I think that the key for us is, it must be, they just want to move on. They just want to move on with it, save a little bit of money for this year, top up a little bit of money for next year. And just move forward.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you're saying that it's very hard to get anything out of the West Tigers now. And it's fair to say that Michael Shamus and Danny Weidler are not connected in any way, shape or form to the Isaac Moses camp. So where's the information coming from about the 165,000? Where's the information coming from the 3.5 years?
No. Michael Shamus has got contacts in the Galvin circle. It's just not the Galvin. It's just not the
manager.
Sorry, it's not the, like, he's come out and said it. You got to remember, Michael Shamus, I've already stated, I think he's the best journo in the game. He came out and openly said it. He said, "Don't forget, I grew up, same area, same friends, same, indirectly with family." He came out and said that he sometimes writes stories to make it look like it's come from Isaac, but it's come from people in and around him, and he doesn't like that. So he would have got the information. Look, at the end of the day, there's also a battle between Nine and News Limited, and it's where do you think they got the information today from? That would have been Gus giving them the all clear to say what they said. So where was the information around the 165,000? Well, that could also be that Richo. Sometimes, don't forget, like, not everything is leaked. Sometimes it's a phone conversation. It's as simple as, one of the journos gets on the phone with Richo, and Richo says, "Yep, on the record, this is what we want." Like, sometimes you don't have to hide this stuff. Like, not everything needs to be a secret in rugby league. But look, and I don't even know if that number's correct, but obviously that's what's been reported, and then the majority of the time the journos actually know what they're talking about, because they do their research into into the majority of their reporting.
Yeah, being the bye week, I felt like I needed no game. I needed the week off. I needed a break from the negative media. But obviously, with this thing just brewing and brewing, I'd hoped that we'd release him by last Tuesday, so we could get over it by now and just be looking forward to the Cowboys game. It's just a situation that I think all of us would agree that, 99% Richo's going to get a player in lieu of Galvin. So again, we don't know what the details are, and I do trust Richo, even though it seems like a really poor outcome at the moment. I really do think Richo's obviously all over it. He won't be happy in the sense that if all he can get is 165, then he's going to get it. But there's obviously something going on that means he's caved or had a backflip about holding firm. As you said, you don't know, I don't know. We might never find out. I'm hoping after Galvin leaves and when the dust settles after a week, that Richo might address the members via an email or via a video conference or whatever the case may be, and explain his reasons behind it. But at the moment, it just seems like he's hiding something that's happened or something within the club that could potentially get leaked. It's like they've been threatened with something further to that legal action. So it's just one that's, you wouldn't say that this was going to be the outcome.
It also could be that they just, once it all happened, the idea was to just, it's time to move him on. Like, they might, it could be Benji. It could be Benji going and saying, "Look, I want to make the finals this year. With this guy around, like, we're not going to make it because, whatever. Like, mate, I could put myself in Benji's shoes. A player says what he says about you. Like, that's why I got fired up about it months ago. Benji's a better man than me. I wouldn't have played him, but yes, I don't know, mate. We don't know. We don't know. The truth is, we don't know. I don't think we'll ever get, we'll ever be given an explanation. I think that's not. It's a need to know basis. Like, at the end of the day, what we want to be doing is moving forward. What we know is the guy's going. He's going anyway. We're going regardless. So, you may not get anything out of him, but in spite, you don't sort of have to do everything out of spite. Like, I've thought about. I've said it before. You sit him in reserve grade, but what you can do is you can end the chapter to it all. That's what this can do. This can end the chapter of the conversation and whatnot. Look, my theory on this is very, 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 very easy. You either dig your toes in or your heels in, and you ask the Bulldogs for a player. And the player's Bailey Hayward. It's very, very clear to me. Like, you think about our roster, and we're so desperate to fill the sexy positions and make sure that, okay, whatever this position is, let's get someone for that. But we needed someone like a Bailey Hayward who can cover lock, hooker, halves for us, considering injuries and the lack of depth. So what you want is someone who's hybrid like that. They can cover multiple positions. Bailey Hayward would be on $200,000 at the Bulldogs right now. And everyone would probably be asking, why would he want to leave the Bulldogs? I think he's got this year and next year, he'd be on possibly $450,000 for the next 2 years, which this year he's already been paid 7 months of it. So we've got 5 months to go. To a club like us, Bailey Hayward's worth about $400,000 to $450,000. That's my move. My move is Bailey Hayward for Galvin. It kind of solves their issue as well, because I think he'll go to 14. I don't think Galvin will play for them. I don't think he'll start. I think he'll play the 14 role for the rest of the year. And there is another dynamic about the whole move to Canterbury, which we'll talk about in a sec. I think that's what he'll play for the rest of the year with them. There's no way they're going to move Sexton and Burton. Like, that's just crazy. You've just got everything to lose then if you do that. But, you never know, that might happen. But I think it can help solve their problem. And you get Hayward to our club and you make him our number 14, that's the type of 14 that we need. And at the same time, obviously, if Latu's got a few issues, you play Hayward in the halves and, it probably solves our problem and solves theirs at the same time. So that's my theory around it, and that's what I'd be doing, but it doesn't mean they're going to give him up. Hayward's going to have to want to come as well. And I'm just throwing a name out there, but that's my theory to it. I know you asked me before about Galvin and going to the Bulldogs, mate. I'll tell you something. It's a risky move from the Dogs. I get it. And I've told you my position on Galvin. For the last 2 years, I've told everybody what I think of Galvin and his footballing ability and what I think of him long term. And I have seen some people comment about this today, and I think Gordon Tallis might have mentioned it. I see it on something. Lachie Galvin's going to the Bulldogs. I know he's got his bum chum school teacher, wanker school teacher, that is the biggest tosser in the history of mankind, FYI. And I will extend on that in a sec about his coach and Galvin. Stephen Crichton is the leader of the Bulldogs. Stephen Crichton is Jerome Luai's best mate. If Lachie Galvin thinks he's going to go there and run the show, well, I don't think that's going to happen. Now, good luck to them and let's see how that dynamic works. The other thing I wanted to say about this Galvin situation and with his coach at the Bulldogs is there's a crew from Westfields, and they are a toxic crew. And they were a lot of them were a part of our club. So Wayne Lampkin, Keith Hanley, who's now at Manly. So these guys were all under Sheens. So this is where I think a lot of the information has come around the whole Sheen stuff with Benji, and this is where a lot of the spite with Benji is. Benji got rid of all these people. Now they were all a part of the coaching staff that coached with Luke Wanker out of Westfields, and who coached Galvin. So I think that's played a big part in this push. Because, mate, let's be honest. Let's look at it. Have you ever seen anything like this in your life? A 19-year-old kid treating a legend of the game like this and walking out and turning down, what are we talking about? Nearly guaranteed money over $3 million, I think in total it works out to be. So it's crazy to think that, but good luck to them. And I don't. The Bulldogs, I guess, are seeing that this is their X factor. I don't think Galvin is an X factor. I think he's a off the cuff, good young footballer. But what happens if they start losing football games?
Yeah, that's a big question. Look, I'll just backtrack a little bit, Adel. I think when we dropped him after the Newcastle game, when it was announced that he wasn't going to stay on with the club and what he'd said about Benji, had we got a win over Parramatta, I don't think Galvin would have come back in. So I actually think as wrong as it was to put him back in first grade, and sure enough, we won our next two games. We beat, Cronulla, and then we beat St George. I think what Benji did was actually quite selfless, because Lachlan Galvin and his management had just shat on him, said, you can't make me a better player. And Benji's like, well, look, I don't want to dismantle our 2005 just because of my pride and my ego. What's best for the team is this guy being in the team, even if he's carrying on like a prize tosser, and go with it. So had we not, and also don't forget that day against Parramatta, Adel, we changed three positions. Like Dewey went to number 7 or first receiver. Luai played second receiver. Naden went to set. Like we changed three positions just for Galvin being dropped, and it destroyed everything. So I think that's the reason we put him back in. I was happy for him to just stay out, because you just can't say that to your boss in whatever line of employment you're in. You can't say, you're not going to make me a better player, F you, but I'm still going to be here. It just doesn't work like that. So all this stuff about him saying, I'm happy to play out my 18 months, you have to call that garbage, because if you're starting to say, well, I wasn't treated the same at training, people are bullying on me, you pulled me from a wrestling session too early, all this sort of stuff, he's obviously agitating to leave, and he's going to leave. And what's disappointing for me, I don't care that he's not back the money. That's his right. If he thinks he's going to be a better player somewhere else, that is honestly his prerogative, Adel. And the thing with this whole situation, we won't get to judge realistically till the end of next year to see if he has advanced. Like we know what Lachie Galvin gave us at the start of 2024, the sort of player and the impact he had immediately with us. And we've seen what he's doing this year. There's really not much difference. Let's see if it's official and he goes to Canterbury tomorrow. Let's see where he is in 18 months from now to see, is he a better player? Did he improve in a better system? That's his prerogative, but he's got no right whatsoever to say what he's saying about Benji, given what he's done, and basically said, we're going to build a team around you. Richo said, we want you to be the face of our club since forever. He's offered him the biggest contract I think any teenager's probably ever been offered, or at least in our club's history anyway. I honestly just wanted to be over with now. It's kind of like watching a slow death, and it's just been a stain on our head. But it's just disappointing that we couldn't get a player. But again, I trust Shane Richardson, and I'll tell you straight up, if Shane Richardson or Benji Marshall, like I call things out as I see it. I'm not here to make friends. If I think something is black, I'm going to call it black. If something's white, I'm going to call it white. But in this case, I think they've moved heaven and earth for the bloke. I think he's got bad counselling, whether it be from his family or his management or whatever, just in terms of how to treat it. But again, the answers as to if he's done the right thing or not won't be decided probably for about 18 months or so. Let's just touch on something that doesn't have anything to do with us, Adel. You said he'll play 14. I actually said that today on the Discord chat, and the pushback I got on that was he's so entitled and so precious that he's probably demanding to get a starting spot. But I'm with you. I think if you're Seraldo and you want to just bring his ego back into line and give him a taste of what proper leadership is and discipline, you do not start him. You play him 100% off the bench. You might even throw him in New South Wales Cup for a game, just to show that there is an order here. There's a pecking order. You have to work your way into the first grade team. There's suggestions he's going to play first receiver or number 7 and a shift of Burton perhaps, or even put him into 5'8" and Burton to fullback. What's your take on all that? Do you see that as something being feasible?
No chance. No chance. Look, the key with Bulldogs is They play a really, really, really detailed system around what they do. And Cameron Toretto's said it multiple times is you can't just turn up to that and play it. So especially someone in that position. Matt Burton's never played fullback in his life. You think they're going to change a team coming first is going to move him to fullback? Like, this is wrong. I'm telling you, what they'll do, especially considering they think of this as a long-term thing, they would have told him, you're coming to play 14 for the rest of this year. You'll fill in different roles. Start of next year, you want to be with your boyfriend, you can come and be with him. You can hang out with him. And then you'll learn our way. You want to develop, you're going to learn our way and develop our way. Serrato's a tough bastard. He's, mate, I think, I don't know, probably wasn't you, but I told everybody he's the best young coach in the game years ago. Everybody, obviously, I got a lot of information out of the guys at Penrith, and, we're starting to see what Penrith's looking like without him. Like, obviously, he's been now gone for 2 years, but they were able to get the rewards of that. But there's no way he's going to play in the unless obviously an injury happens. That's different. But if everybody's on deck, like people talk about Burton going to centre, out of Cherry and Crichton, who's going to move, And then you've got potentially someone like Montoya goes, but what are you going to do? Push Cherry to the wing, and that may be the solution. That's the only other thing I could think of. Is Burton goes to the centres, Galvin goes to the halves. But look, I can't see that happening. I think they've signed him for two reasons. One, they know that he's going to help this year. Plus, it makes their depth better, makes their squad better. At the end of the day, he's not with an opposition team; he's with them. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. Look, I know a lot of Bulldogs fans. Obviously, growing up sort of in that area, they're not all sold on this as well. Like, there's a lot of fans that are 50-50. I know there's some power brokers at Canterbury that didn't want this to happen. I know that for a fact. I know that some of the Canterbury people were sort of talking about the young half that's playing for the Roosters at the moment. Actually, that's the guy they tried to go after. Or they were sort of encouraging to go after. Yeah, they're not sold on Sexton. I'm pretty sure the Sexton's deal done elsewhere. And to be honest, from what I heard today, there could be a chance that Adam Reynolds comes to us, because I'm hearing Toby Sexton is going to the Broncos. So if that's the case, that'll mean Adam Reynolds leaving. So, mate, there's a lot of dominoes to fall. We're going to pick up some of those dominoes. The other thing, I'm going to give the club a bit of credit here. For all we know, the reason they're not getting a player is they know that no player's available. And instead of just panic buying someone that we don't want, they've probably decided, well, let's just get whatever money we can get and make use of this. I mean, the alternative is you do sit him in reserve grade, and then in a year and a half time you get nothing anyway. So, yeah, like you said, they'll have a plan inside. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. It's their plan, and they got to go ahead with it. And the next part of what we do and what we're going to talk about is what they do moving forward, and that's all you can do now. Like, if he does get announced the next couple of days, well, for all we know, Latu's not playing next week, but he should be back the week after. And what we can do to solve all this once he leaves is win football games. Simple.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned the panic buying. We're really on the same wavelength tonight, which is really good, Adel. We can confirm we haven't spoken to each other today, have we? Because that's the thing I'm concerned about with the West Tigers. I don't want. I mentioned it on the podcast. Mentioned on the Discord today. I don't want the panic buying of when Woods and Tedesco and had already declared they were leaving, and within 4 weeks, I think Justin Pascoe had announced the signing of Josh Reynolds, who was already a crock at Canterbury. He was dealing with plenty of injuries there, and Chris McQueen, who everyone in the world knew he had a bad back except the West Tigers, and he played most of his time in reserve grade. But our former CEO kept saying, "Oh, we've just signed 2 Origin players. We've lost nothing." The mention of Reynolds. Okay, so you're probably a little bit closer to this more than anyone else. We've heard reports last night that it looks like Reynolds is signing a 1-year deal next year with the Broncos. So are you saying that is not true? Because that's what's being reported last night, that he's
No. I've heard that Toby Sexton is going to the Broncos. Now, that just is a theory to me that if he goes there, well, will they keep Reynolds? They might still. I'm just talking about more Sexton. But I'm just saying that if he does go there, well, then potentially Reynolds might look to go elsewhere. I think there's a lot to happen there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of dominoes to fall. I still stand on, but it looks like it's done. That I don't think Kai Peace Paul is the signing. I have seen that the sort of figures were less than or around the 500 mark. So that sort of changes my opinion of that. Did you watch the Penrith game last night, Rob?
I was going to say, I'm watching Dylan Lucas. Well, I was at a wedding, but the game was on earlier, so it was before I had to get to the wedding. But I'd seen him score 3 tries and bomb a fourth. And I'm thinking, trust us to be getting the other second rower instead of this bloke. But yeah, it's
No, but did you watch the second half and did you see
no,
the
no,
young
I
kid?
didn't.
Did you? Well, I want you to go back and watch that game. And in one moment in that game, young Harrison Hassett, who I told you about from the Panthers, making his debut, in one motion of the game, hits a line 10 metres out and busts through 2 defenders to score a try. Again, with all due respect, in one carry, in one line run, has done more than our right edge back row has done in how many years? Like I'm sitting there. This kid's off contract. He's managed by Benji's management. It's a no-brainer. Like you're probably not going to pay much money for him. He's been sitting in that Penrith system for years. Makes his debut was outstanding for them yesterday. How are we not on the phone and going boom? Like, he's not going to play another game for Penrith this year because once they got everybody back, Liam Martin's their right edge back rower. That's what I'm doing. I'm going and getting him right now and say to Penrith, look, don't hold the kid up. Give us the kid now because they're the positions we need.
Yeah, well, he's five or six back in the pecking order, Adel. I mean, they also had Luke Garner and Maverick Geyer out last night, so he's way back. Like I did see the try. Like I watched the minis of the Roosters game and the Knights game just to catch up on the tries. And yeah, obviously he ran a really good line, but it's sad to say that Hassett did more in one run this year than Kai Pearce Paul has done all year for the Knights. So I know where I'd be spending my money. Okay,
yeah, and
so
this is the thing that I'm sitting with our recruitment. And look, don't get me wrong, I know some of the stuff that's being done. I'll tell you what we are doing really well is we're looking for some of the better 18, 19-year-old kids from around the country. Whereas we've had this theory in the last 4 or 5 years in the previous management about just bringing the kids only, Western Balmain kids that are growing up in our local district. Like, if there's no talent there, just because they are talented doesn't mean they're NRL players. So I know for a fact we're looking around the country and looking at other clubs' junior rep teams, which is a good thing.
I think with having to, put Galvin back in first grade after dropping him, pardon the pun, Adel, but we have been hamstrung by Latu being injured. I think if Latu was available, from day dot, Galvin would have been just dropped permanently and we wouldn't have heard any more of this. But can we trust Latu Fainu's hamstring? Because remember, I think at the time it was a fractured thumb or finger that was keeping him out. And suddenly it's that problematic hamstring again. I've got all the faith in his ability. He just unfortunately seems like someone that's going to be going through this week after week after week. Can we afford to, have a guy that plays a couple of weeks and then misses 4 or 5? That's my concern. I'd be happy to run with Latu and not get Adam Reynolds and not get any other halfback out there. But I think as a club we have to be cautious. Don't forget too. I don't think Jaden Sullivan's the answer. We did loan him to South, and I know he's coming back, but he's made it very clear he doesn't want to come back to us. So I think he's happy at South, and I'd assume we're not going to have him back. But suddenly we've gone from having 4 halves, 5 if you thought Adam Dewey could play in the halves, to now basically the cupboard's empty. So, I mean, what should we do there? Should we go after the young guy from the Roosters, the tall halfback there who's got a bit of a good all-round game and good kicking game? Is he someone we should look at, given that Cherry Evans is going to go there? Would you even accept him on a loan deal, Adel? Like, obviously the Roosters,
Potentially.
Cherry Evans could be a 1-year deal.
Potentially. Look, going back to Latu, we have to be patient with Latu. I know this sounds weird, but, the Roosters sat on Robert Toyer for 2.5 years. Class is permanent. And when you see the talent, you've got to take a risk. And what that means is you've got to be patient with their injuries. Now, what that'll mean is he'll also reward the club. And at the end of the day, when Latu's contract comes up, if he hasn't played much football, well, he's going to have no value. He's not going to be in demand as much as he would be if he was playing week in, week out. So it sort of works both ways for us. The best young
Sorry,
half in
mate.
the game is. Sorry?
I was just about to sneeze, but then you stopped. I thought I'd better start talking again. Sorry. Yeah. Keep going, mate.
No, it's
keep
okay.
going.
Well, the best young half in the game is Isaiah Katoa, for me. Isaiah Katoa's ability to play with tempo and the way how straight he plays. The next best is Latu Fainu. No doubt about it. Like, I've watched all of them play now. We have to bank on him. Like, we have the opportunity and touch wood and there's a big job for our performance staff to get this right. We have the opportunity to turn around in years' time and say, we are lucky that we let Lachlan Galvin go, or he left us, so that Latu Fainu's passage clears up. We have this opportunity. Now, a lot of that's going to come down to luck as well. So hopefully some of the luck finally starts to bounce our way, and especially for this young kid, and he gets healthy and he gets a string of games together, because mate, his talent is unbelievable. I'm not exaggerating, Rob, when I say this. Like, his ball playing ability, even his turn of speed, with how he threatens the line, he runs the ball. We've seen it already at NRL level. It's not like we haven't seen it at NRL level. So we'd love a bit of luck to go our way with the injuries, wouldn't we?
I just want to tell you, Adel, you do not tell West Tigers fans to stay patient. It's the equivalent of telling your missus to calm down when she's angry. It's just like it doesn't work, mate. It doesn't work. We've been patient for too long, mate.
Yeah, but that's not an excuse, Rob. Just because it's the same as you talked about panic buying before. Just because we've been patient, it doesn't mean you need to become erratic in your thoughts. Like, you still got to understand that. You still got to understand that in time, like, if you're building a house and every time you build a house, a storm hits and it knocks it back down again, you can't be impatient with building the house again. You've got to start again from the start. So as frustrating as that is, you've got to build it the right way. Or if you build it, without the right foundations and, it's a bodgy job here and there and it's just patch ups, well, guess what's going to happen? The house is going to get knocked down very quickly again, or you're going to have really bad issues with it. So you still, you need to be patient. We need to be patient. We're not a club. We haven't won one wooden spoon. We haven't even won two. We won three. The reality is we have got 18 more months of hard work. It took the Bulldogs. This is 2.5 years into the Cameron Serrato. So, I get it. I know what everybody's going to say about Serrato and about Riles and about all these other coaches, and they've served their apprenticeship. They've done everything, but it doesn't matter. Benji's shown enough for me, and besides Galvin, what are we hearing out of the players?
Yeah, they love him. I get. Look, Adel, I'm going to be straight up. Other than the X's and O's, I think Benji's got it. He's got the aura. He's got the love of the players. I can see as a coach his desire. Personally, and I'm not in there, I can only judge what I see on the field every week. Mate, there's no attention to detail with our attack. Our red zone attack sucks. And what I don't understand is there's glimpses, and I'll give you an example. First half against Parramatta, the first time we played them, first half against St. George, where we looked like we played with purpose. We had a great balance of running hard, moving the ball. Even though we lost the game, you could see there was a deliberate ploy against Brisbane to put rubber kicks behind certain players. Like, there are glimpses, but then there's other times, mate, I'm just thinking, what the fuck are we doing? What have we trained on all week?
Okay. Look,
but we're not there.
Really Hang on.
Yeah, we've got to disagree all you want, mate. We got 2 tries from Appy last week, or we're beyond 0. You can say whatever you want. You're not going to change my mind.
No. I understand what you're saying, right? But I can understand someone saying, yes, he knows the X's and O's. You can't tell me Benji doesn't understand the X's and O's of the game.
Of course he does, but he's not teaching it.
hang on. I'm going to give you real life reality because I'm experiencing it right now.
Yeah,
So I'm
go for it.
currently, as you know, I'm on the coaching staff now with Queensland Cup team up here, and their coaches. I'll give it away. Their coach is Carmichael Hunt. So I'm in there every day. I'm watching him and I'm listening to him coach and watching what the team is doing. And they've got, their halves at the moment. Or our halves are a former first grader, Anthony Milford, and a young kid called Kobe Black, who's the next big thing they say out of Brisbane. We got a hooker that's played in our role in Blake Moser. This is a coach that every week gives these guys a plan. And let me tell you, they deviate from the plan every single game. And I probably shouldn't be saying this because I'll probably get in trouble from my end, but hopefully it doesn't reach the South Logan team. But this is the reality of coaching. Like Paul Carmichael's going to lose his hair because of the fact that you give a plan, and what happens is people from the outside look in and go, "Well, what are they being coached?" Well, they are being coached, but the natural thing of players, especially people that are learning systems and learning a different way of how things are done by different coaches, is it takes time, or they don't have the ability to do it. Is the other part. So what I'm trying to say to you is, just because what we're seeing on the field doesn't necessarily mean that's what the coaches are instructing. And that's the most frustrating part for me. That's why when I talked to you guys the other week about how he's ranked the coach's performance, I'm like, you can't do that. He's not on the field. He doesn't actually do it. And I know that's an old adage of he doesn't miss tackles, he doesn't do all that. Now, over time, yes, you do. I mean, if he can't get it out of him, well, then you got to get someone else to. If Benji can't get it out of the players over a certain period, there's two resolutions to it. One is he changes his staff, or two, the club changes him. And this is any coach, not just Benji. But you know what the biggest challenge, Rob, at NRL level, honestly, is players who want to play for their coach. That's the
No,
biggest
I
challenge.
accept that,
Like,
and I'm being critical, Adel, but I'm also giving a lot of praise. Like we've gone from a team that weren't winning barely any games last year to, mate, we're just under 50%. We're 5 wins and 6 losses, and looking at our squad now and the reality that's set in with me, because I've got bigger concerns below first grade. That's what bothers me. Like this comp is so open. I'm not just exaggerating. I honestly think 17 teams, any one of them, if they strike fire, could win the comp. That's how ordinary this or level
or at
this
least can make the
competition is.
finals.
Yeah, but
At least
it
can make the
doesn't.
finals.
But it doesn't solve the problem, Adele, doesn't it? Like you don't want a 2005 and then go 4 years back into dead shit alley and not playing finals again. There's a bigger problem. Like you're saying, and I agree with you that the juniors we've got aren't as talented as the ones that Penrith have got. But you can't tell me if you've got X amount of juniors at Penrith and X amount at the West Tigers, so you've got the same quantity. That why are all these players seem to be developing and coming through and ours aren't? There's got to be a problem below first grade level. That's not Benji's issue. Benji's, I believe, been told to just concentrate on first grade and everything below that is not his issue. But I think it's just as vital to get people below Benji developing those players and coming in. And you only have to look at Parramatta were an absolute mess recently. Even with Moses coming back, we were laughing at their second rowers and what have you. You watch their game on Friday night and suddenly the young fullback / winger, Josh Papali'i, comes in. He looks all right. Katauga looks all right. You've got that the centre that's played a bit of centre and second row and wing. He scored a try the other night. There's lots of players coming through. And then you look at that Roosters game, they had athletes come in, to their team last night. Everyone thought Cronulla was going to run through them. They've lost all these middles to State of Origin and their hooker, Connor Watson. Even though their backline's still reasonably intact, there's no chance that the Roosters are going to keep up with Cronulla. And we saw all these young kids from the Roosters come in, and you just think we don't have that, Adele. Like our roster is so poor below first grade. Like our best 17 can compete, but other clubs have got. I was just saying, as you dropped off, you look at your Parramatters and more particularly Roosters last night, who had to replace a lot of middles that they were missing and their hooker. And they got by, and they didn't just win against Cronulla, they thrashed them. It was 42-16 or something to that effect. I just think there's so much more to fix in our club than just getting the first graders right, because getting enough good players to our club from importing them and making the right purchases, That's just a short-term fix. We need to
But
have systems in place below that can develop some of these guys, Adel, that can teach properly. So when they come into first grade, they look like first graders.
well, look, I'm going to expand on this even past what you're talking about, because you are 100% right, and a lot of it's got to do with resources. And let me tell you, the Bulldogs. We counted this today. We're having this chat on our WhatsApp chat. The Bulldogs have 7 recruitment officers. 7, Rob.
How
7
many do we
people.
have?
We've got Shannon Gallant, 1 person.
So it just comes
The
back to the
Roosters,
resources. We just don't have it.
the Roost. Well, hang on. No, I'm gonna keep going. I'm coming off the
Yes,
back fence in a second for you.
sure.
The Roosters have got 5. This is the difference. The Panthers have got 1 head, and then they've got about 4 or 5 guys that work around him. I'm trying to think, actually, just so I'm not wrong, to make sure that the Tigers don't have another one. No, they don't. They used to, and now it's just Shannon on his own. The Bulldogs, Rob, have got a rich league club behind them, and they've got the Laundies. Okay. The problem we've got is we've got ownership, and I don't know how this is all played out. And I think this is the part I'll be critical of Richo. Richo made a big point at the start of the year to talk about the financials of the club and to make sure, because he thought it was wrong. And I think he's trying to elevate himself here, which is fair enough as a CEO, because at the end of the day, the business part of the club is really important, of showing that, at the end of every year, we're not showing a loss, and the Holman Barnes Group is just writing it off. This is the next part of what we need. We need the Holman Barnes Group to actually start throwing money into the club. And I'm not talking about a little bit of money. We need to endless. We need to have a well of money sitting there going, you do what we got to do to make our club successful. Because yes, I know it's been explained over the last couple of weeks that there's also a salary cap, what they call a soft cap, for the football department, but that's only for the NRL team. That's not for the rest of the club. Like I know it from being there, for example, and I know the girls program is different to the boys program. Mate, in the girls program, we were an NRLW squad. We could not pay under 19s Tasha Gale girls any money. The Bulldogs weren't even in the NRLW. They were paying girls thousands of dollars. That's in their girls program. This is the difference we are trying to compete with. There is no competition. You cannot compete with this. There is also rules around if, for example, we want to sign a really good 17-year-old kid from Parramatta, a Lachlan Galvin. Remember they talked about the Lachlan Galvin thing, and someone had to pay the fee. Remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that conversation? So you got to pay a fee, right? You got to pay a development fee. The Bulldogs don't care. They're going to pay a development fee. Let's flip this. If Lachie Galvin played for the Bulldogs, and he said he wants to leave the Bulldogs for better development, and Luke Vella was at our club, do you think our club would pay $165,000 or has the capacity to pay a $165,000 transfer fee?
Probably not.
We don't. Like, this is the truth. The truth is we have owners at our club who don't want to spend money.
Exactly.
The most successful franchises in world sport are the ones who will pay. The Golden State Warriors have paid a luxury tax of over $300 million over the last 10 years to make their team a dynasty. They've won 4 championships. The franchise is now worth something like $5.2 billion. They're now the number one. I think they're behind the Lakers. Sorry, they're the second highest valued franchise, going from being something like 20. What our owners don't understand is, you bring success, you elevate the value of the club. Our owners are old people who are just stuck in the bloody 60s. I've been around
Thank
it.
you.
I've seen it.
Thank
I've
you.
sat there and I've sat there and been at the club, because obviously the girls would train on an evening and we'd be in the COE, and I'd go, who are these people? And they're like, oh, they're board members. Mate, half of them are about to die. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but with all due respect, like,
I think
you know, Oh, it's comical. It's comical, mate. Like we had other people. And there. Sometimes I turn around and think, and I wonder, oh, there's got to be a reason. What I'll tell you where the red flags sit with me. Someone like Uncle Harry, I call him Uncle Harry, Mr. Triggerboff that owns Meriton, who has openly said how much he loves the Tigers. Why do you think he's never owned the club, or he's never really been hands on? There
I'm not
must
sure.
be something. There, exactly, Rob. Like, there's got to be something rotten there for him to go, nah, I'm not touching that. I'm not going near it.
I think with the history of
Eh,
Holland Barnes Group, Adele, they'll look. The only way we got the upheaval we got without Hage Pentelis and Pascal obviously was via the petition. But ultimately, they were looking for an excuse because West Tigers had sacked 2 coaches and they had to give them like $1 million payouts, and that was the only reason they got their knickers in a knot. Otherwise, they just would have let things go as long as everything's profitable. As much as they'd like us to win, at the end of the day, they slept at night. They don't have the passion. They don't have
yeah,
the drive. They don't stress for want of a better term, like we do, like demanding success and wanting to make positive
I
change.
agree.
We've just got we've got the wrong owners, mate. Like I'd love someone
It's
to come
this
and
is the same as all these sports around the world who have got these owners that have got this situation. You look at Newcastle United in the English Premier League went for years with it. The New York Knicks are currently going through it. Like, they're finally starting to see a little bit of success, but bare patch for so long. Why? Because they've got stale owners who all they care about is saving money.
yeah,
And that's the only problem with privatization, right? Is if you get the wrong owners, well, you're pretty much screwed. Whereas you go to
yeah.
Melbourne, who are owned by, or their chairman. What's the chairman's name? The guy that owns the gambling company.
Gambling company? I don't know. Oh,
Better,
no.
yeah. Matt Tripp.
Okay, yeah,
He's the chairman, and he's got the other guy. Mate, these are businessmen who understand that if Melbourne Storm are winning, the value is going up. It's just common practice in business. If you spend more on your business, usually it's going to elevate your business. If you don't spend on your business, well, it's probably going to fall apart. So, look, I don't know. We've deviated so far away, but look, this is the
not really.
reality of our club, mate. We're
Uh,
we're operating under crippled circumstances.
that's what I
This
mean. But
is this is
when I hear, like when they sat down, I know that the president's changed now, but when Richo and Simon Cook and the lady who's Julie Romero and whoever the fourth person was, it might have been Barry O'Farrell, when they all sat down, and then Simon Cook does his spiel and he says, "Oh, we're going to put a bit of money and sort out Lidcombe Oval." I'm like, sorry, old West Magpies fan, who cares? Like, there's literally 200 to 500 people maximum that go there, and that's predominantly family. We're not spending our money in the right places. Like, we're just, like you said, we're still living in the 60s and 70s, and they've got to appease their members, and they've got groups within their
Mate,
group. So
look. It's time for the West Magpies and the Balmain Tigers to die. Sorry,
yeah,
it's time for them to die. The
well, Balmain
Brisbane
Tigers have,
Lions,
to be fair, mate. Balmain Tigers have
yeah,
died through their own
the,
stupid
the, the
financial.
Brisbane the Brisbane Lions AFL team, Fitzroy don't exist anymore. Okay,
Yeah,
like, who's the other one? I'm trying to think of the other one.
Western Bulldogs were
Well,
Footscray.
have they gone back to Footscray?
They're gone back to Footscray. Yeah, they
I
have.
thought they did, but
So
like the
just killed your
Swans,
argument, mate.
no. But that's like Manly
Oh,
going back to
Sydney
from the
Sydney
Northern
Swans were
Eagles.
South Melbourne. Yeah, Sydney Swans were South
South Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Well, my
Yeah,
point being is you've always got to fight, but they never merged, mate. They just changed their name. That was like us going from not us. That was Balmain Tigers going to Sydney Tigers, back to Balmain Tigers. That's just a name change,
yeah.
different to a merged entity or a takeover of a club or all that sort of stuff. What we need to understand is Balmain and West are dead. Death. There's no more. Like, it's crazy to me that we're still playing under the West Magpies as New South Wales Cup. Just ridiculous.
I
Absolutely
agree.
ridiculous. I'm going to tell a story. I don't really care anymore. I'm going to tell a story, Rob. Last year there was a game of New South Wales Cup being played, and the West Magpies were the New South Wales Cup team. And I know this 100% is a factual story. And Josh, don't clip this up on social media. This can be just for our listeners.
Too late, mate.
No, as in don't clip it up as one of the little clips that you put online.
Yeah, no, we're
I
going
don't
to
want
make sure.
this going
Josh,
viral.
1 minute and 50 odd seconds. Clip it.
No. There was a New South Wales Cup game, and the West Magpies played in numbers so the jersey's black. They played in numbers that were white, but the trim of the number was orange.
The what?
It was World War. The trim of the number.
Yeah.
So in the modern day, when they make numbers, they've always got a little trim around them.
Yeah.
It was orange. It was World War III at the club. All the old rusted-on West Magpies directors and managers and all that, mate, they went bananas. I know it. I heard it out of Justin Pascoe's mouth. He went,
Yeah, I got a better story than that, Adel. So the very last time the Balmain Tigers played the West Magpies in New South Wales Cup, as they were all under the West Tigers banner, Balmain absolutely put a massive score on them. I don't remember, it was something, they scored between 50 and 70 points. It was an absolutely embarrassing scoreline. Because of that result, that's why the New South Wales Cup team is called the West Magpies. They did it in spite because Balmain had beaten them up so much. That's straight from Simon Cook's mouth. I can tell you that straight up. That's the low level of simplicity that this club has in its ownership and the board members that decided all these things.
I'm not exaggerating, Rob. We should have a rule at our club. So the West Tigers are now being going for 25 years, okay? So my theory is anyone that's, 15 years old or young, was 15 years old at the time or younger, doesn't have an influence of the previous clubs. So the rule for the club should be is you got to have been born in whatever that year, 15 years before that. So 1985. You've got to be born in 1985 or later to be on the West Tigers board. That to me, that's the only way you're going to get rid of the rusted on people. How crazy is it that our Jersey flag team, so the system is NRL, New South Wales Cup Jersey flag, we're West Tigers, and then we go back to West Magpies?
Stupid.
It doesn't make sense. I understand. Look, junior reps is different. I definitely agree with junior reps that, it's wrong if we go away from Balmain and West because we're so far apart geographically. Rob. But you got to remember this, and I learned this year, and obviously I was a part of it's the challenge for the girls, right? In the Lisa Fiola in particular is, mate, if you're training so obviously they train at Liverpool to try to alleviate as much as they can, but when you're coaching when we've got a Harold Matthews kids who a lot of them don't drive because they're 15, 16-year-old kids, and you want them to be at your club, so you're relying on parents to take them to games and to training. You can't ask a kid from Camden or a family from Camden to drive their kids to training to Concord, and then vice versa. You can't ask.
No. I get that, but again, this wasn't my idea. Someone threw this idea at me. Why can't the Balmain juniors be West Tigers orange, and for example, the Campbelltown side be West Tigers white or West Tigers black or whatever colour the West Magpies seem to have more of a romantic connection to? Like, at least you're all West Tigers. I mean, if you know it's orange, you know it's from Balmain district, and you know if it's white or black, you know it's from the Western Suburbs side. Like, I don't think it's too hard to move into the 21st century instead of going back and claiming we're this and we're that and we're that. And again, it's not just West. There's a lot of Balmain fans that still wear their Balmain jerseys and like Balmain and, aren't as connected to the West Tigers as well. It's both sides of it. But like, why can you and I, we're both Balmain background people, why can we say time to kill the Balmain Tigers and be West? Like, if I won $1 billion, I wouldn't go back to Balmain Tigers as Anthony Field suggested. If I won the lottery, I would not do that. We're West Tigers now. We've got to move forward. Why can't we have people that have had that prior background think the same way? Why do we have to stick with this stupid romantic notion of two teams that could barely win a game in the 90s between them? It's crazy. crazy. The Balmain had won one
Not
premiership in 1969, the West in 1952. Like literally next to no success in the last 75 years, basically.
Well, if you calculate what you just said, and obviously you're older than me, so you know all this stuff. 31 years
Definitely am
before the
older than you,
merger,
unfortunately.
31 years before the merger, we neither club had won a premiership. You know, we've only won one, but we've won one premiership in 25 years. So already the club has showed more success as a united front than both clubs have had individually. So, mate, it's not just that. It's like what we talked about before. Like, you know, anyone under the age of 30, like I know I said 1985 before, but if you even go to another step, anyone that was 5 years old or younger, mate, they wouldn't even know anything else but West Tigers. Anyone under the age of 30 right now would not even know. Well, they think of Balmain and West Magpies as something from the folklore, like
Yeah.
from the ancient times. Like the clubbers, we are so far past that. That's ridiculous. And you
Yeah.
know, you look where we're at right now, and yeah, I think if you stem it, and we have deviated it a little bit, but if you stem it all back, mate, it's a lot of it's got to do with their ownership, and you know they need to improve.
All right, let's go away from the deep stuff and go to the stuff right at the top of the pool. Luai Fainu is going to be out this coming week to play the Cowboys. Obviously, Galvin's not going to be there. Who are we playing in the halves alongside Jerome Luai? How do you think we're going to line up this week, given that Latu's not back? I've heard crazy thoughts, mate. I've heard some crazy stuff coming at me. I've heard Brent Naden at 5'8". I'm thinking, mate, the guy can't tackle at centre. What's he going to be like at 5'8"? I'm hearing all sorts of weird things. What have you heard anything as to how we might line up?
No, I haven't. Are you asking me if I was coach, what I'd do this week?
Yes.
And you got to pick the best
Other
17
than
players.
buy Hassett, other than going out and buying Hassett from Penrith.
No, I think you got to look at your squad, pick the best 17 players, and put them in position. So to me, Uppy goes, if it's only for 1 week, Uppy goes to the halves. Talon comes in. Tristan Hope comes onto the bench. It's you know, we're expecting Latu back next week. You just, that's what you do for 1 week. The other thing I've thought of, mate, honestly, and he'll probably kill me if he hears me saying this, is watching last week and watching Uppy play and watching the dynamic of the competition and some of the better teams and what they're doing. I think something I'd try if I was part of the coaching staff, and I'd suggest, is we've just learned Uppy can play 80 and he can do it comfortably. As a seasoned veteran, you know, you don't lose that. I think if you're going to play Talon on the bench, you start to do that and you start putting Uppy as our 13 because it just gives you another ball player on the field. He plays direct and he plays square. I think he can handle it. I don't think, you know, the Bulldogs play with a smaller pack, play with four out, you know, utilities sometimes in the middle of the field. I don't think size really matters, and it's not going to make an impact on our team because it's not like we've got big line speed anyway. So I'm almost going to go doubling down on the fact that we're not dominant side defensively. Is well, let's elevate our attack. Like I know I said at the start of the year when Galvin was still around that I'd love to see Fainu played that 13 role. You know, potentially what we do is, you know, when you bring Talon back in now that he's having a good big game last week. Do you know, did Talon play New South Wales Cup on the weekend?
I heard he was dropped from last week for that reason to get 80 minutes last week. I don't know if that happened this week or not.
Yeah, but the buy,
I
so
do.
for example, the buy they played, did they have the buy in New South Wales Cup this week as well? They
I
did.
don't
Okay,
know.
well that's not happening.
Yeah,
So
but
for
I'm
example,
pretty
yeah,
sure he played a full game last week.
he did, but I was wondering whether West had the buy as well in New South Wales Cup because obviously for us today who do we have? Ben Takura, Blake Moser, Kobe Black. So these are all guys of the Broncos. The Broncos had the bye this week. These guys still, we didn't know whether they were going to play. They played with us. So the Broncos obviously wanted to keep him playing football. Whereas our boys didn't get that opportunity to play this week. It would have been good if the West didn't have the bye and guys could have got some more football under the belt. But yeah, that's potentially what I do for this week, Rob. And then once Latu comes back next week. But look, we've got till June 30. There's no one really out there, to be honest. But potentially you sign someone before June 30 to sort of fill that role for the back end of the year. But I've had a look, and there's not really anyone out there, to be honest.
See, even our centre stocks are so bad, and I know people hate me for suggesting it, but if you did move Adam back to 6, we're stuck for centres. You're either putting Nathan there, or you're putting Fatahape or Folletti or someone there. I'm just, as a club, I hate the fact that not every time, but most times we lose a player, we have to do a reshuffle. And I totally understand your reasoning for, and you said it's only for 1 week, to move Appy to number 7. And friend of the show, Kathy, actually messaged me today and suggested the same thing. And I almost laughed it off, because I'm thinking, how could you move Appy after that 80-minute performance that he gave us last week? Like, you're just weakening one position. Granted that Talon and Tristan can play it, but you're weakening one position to maybe plug a hole in another position. It just doesn't sit well with me, mate. We've just got no depth.
No, I've heard that. I've heard that. Exactly. But I've heard that before, where people say that. But hang on. Are we better? Is Talon a better choice at hooker? If you were missing your hooker in your 5'8", so let's say Galvin and Uppy were out during a game this year, and you put Talon in and you put anyone else in at 6, which is the stronger replacement?
Yeah, Talon's a stronger replacement.
So you're actually strengthening. You're keeping the balance of your strength there, whilst at the other time keeping that quality player who's played that position heaps for us, and making sure that what we're trying to do. We're trying to win this game this week. Like, I get the whole notion of you don't want to make too many changes, but guess what? We've lost our last 2. The boys should be fresh. Uppy straightens our attack. Every time he's played in shape, even this year, like, I get what he did last week was good, but I think a lot of that sort of stuff, he scored the first try. Where did he score it from? First receiver.
Yeah.
So it's the short-term fix for me whilst Latu returns. And and then that's the other talking point, obviously, isn't it, Rob, about Talon De Silva and what he's obviously indicated that he'll be going to market. But did you watch our Jersey Flag game on the weekend? Have you been watching any of the lower grades?
I make a point of not watching Cup. I definitely don't watch Cup unless I'm at the game. I only watch West Tigers. And no, I don't have time to watch the other games.
Well, what we need to do, Rob, is we need to get you, because I want to get your opinion on it. Let's see whether Jersey Flag are playing this week, and if they are even playing. They're playing at Henson Park on Saturday. I don't think you'll be going there, but I want you to watch Jared Hayward, Rob. He is.
I watched him in SG Ball, mate. I watched him back in.
Okay, yes.
No, it wasn't even that. It was Harold. It was actually Harold Matts. It was.
Well, put it this way: he's still
2023.
He's still SG Boy eligible. He's playing in the Jersey Flag side, and I think he's their best player. He is absolute quality. He is more the uppy type of hooker than the talent, like the running type. He's more the crafty, very smart, very intelligent, very good defender as well. A little less erratic than Talon. Talon's a little bit of a. He's always, since being a kid, has always been a little bit of more of a rat bag, which is not a bad thing, but he's a bit more that. Whereas Hayward's a bit more sort of, I don't know if I use the word down to earth. I'll tell you the other one that I only found out the other day, and you're going to love this. Have you heard of the name Phoenix Godinay, a young kid in our club?
Yes.
Back rower?
Yes.
Managed by Isaac, the Isaac Moses camp.
I know. Oh, well, that's over. We shouldn't even worry. I know he's a good player. Lots of people have been telling me he's a good player. I haven't seen him play, but people whose opinions I respect have told me he goes very well.
He's a good player. And obviously the thing I told you the other day, and this hasn't become public, but I believe the club are about to make a bit of a power play to keep Jareen Buller to make sure that he's happy in the long term. So that'll be interesting to see how much of an effect that has on the club, on his position at the club moving forward.
Fair enough, mate. I said before the first game this year against Newcastle It's the most important game of the year. We have to win this game. I said it in round 4 when we played New Zealand. This is definitely the most important game. I said it against Parramatta. This is the most important game. Then I've got to be honest, I said it against Cronulla, but we finally won one. I said, this is huge. It's not even about the 2 points this week, Adel. We so need to win as a club to send a message that, good luck to you, Galvin, but we don't need you. We don't need you. We're bigger than you. We're better than you. We're going to thrive without you. I'm worried we're not, just simply because we're missing Luai Fainu, and I don't like the juggling that we're going to have to do. But this is the most important game coming up this week. And honestly, it's almost at the point where I'd actually take winning this game and losing a few others, because it'll just mean a lot to me to win this week. We just have to be, the boys are going to be motivated like never before. I'm hoping a few of the Cowboys don't back up or have some issues, but we struggled against, we lost to a South team that were missing a few players. That's what bothers me. We're not even losing to teams at full strength. We're losing to other teams that are quite undermanned. No Cody Walker, no Jack White, and no Cameron Murray. There's, but hopefully we can back up this week. Can we do it this week? I know you're going to say yes. Will we do it?
Well, a little bit different to you. The reason I want to win this week is because it genuinely gives us another opportunity next week of another 4-point win. Because obviously we play the Panthers at home and then we got the bye again, which is crazy, right? We've got 2 byes in 4 weeks. Like, it's just ridiculous. But anyways, mate, it's going to be tough. Going to North Queensland, I know they've got players backing up, but that's never been an issue because obviously they're backing up, but they're going home to back up. It's not like they have to travel away, which is a little bit different. They're only going from Brisbane to North Queensland on Thursday morning, and they'll just freshen them up and just give them an opportunity to play. They'll be fine. Like, that backup won't be too difficult. The Cowboys need to win as well, just as much as us. Besides the famous Chris, I'm interested to see who they appoint referees for this game. If Chris Butler gets the game again, that'll be interesting. Didn't they do that last year to us?
I think they did. He's the same guy that's been picked for Origin this year, isn't it? Is he doing Origin?
He's the video referee. Yeah, he's video referee. But I could see that happening, is Chris Butler becoming the referee, and we go to North Queensland, and it's going to be interesting. Do I think we can win? I do, but am I confident this week? Well, I don't know. No, I'm not. If Latu was playing, I think there'd be even more motivation from the boys. If he's not playing yet, I think that's just a little bit of a delay.
All right. Final question. I guess Josh and Aaron and I will probably touch on it on the next episode, because by then Galvin should have signed with someone. Now that it's happening and he's definitely going, we're releasing him. Our chances for the rest of the year, given what we've got in the club, given that we don't have that much depth, I know you're hoping we can make the finals. Is it a realistic thing to be thinking finals? I guess we don't know if we're going to sign anyone before June 30th, so I'll give you that little caveat. But I'm not feeling very confident, mate. I'm trying to desensitize myself to the whole situation and just think, as long as we're improving in for next year, sort of keeping the good quality that we do have, we don't have that much good quality, but sorting that out and just getting some more better pieces and offloading a few of the ones that are wasting spots in the top 30. We cut out before, Adel, but given what I saw from a couple of youngsters playing for Parramatta on Friday night and playing for the Roosters last night, and then even today, like a couple of the young forwards, young Miller for Canberra, he looked really good. You wouldn't have seen the game yet today, Adel, but Canberra had another young forward come in today, because obviously they're down a couple of players. I think they've lost Nicholson for an extended
Noah
time.
Martin? Was it Noah Martin?
It was one of the Martins. I think there's a Miles Martin and there's a Noah Martin. I forget what his Christian name was, but hey, just you look at him and he doesn't look like an athlete, but he just ploughed through his work. And again, this is what I'm saying. They get someone that's come in that I don't even remember seeing play first grade, and they just look like they've already played 20 games. When we have someone make their debut at our club, they look like they're making their debut. Pretty much. With Galvin probably being the exception to that.
Look, I'll say this: we've got 6 games coming up. The next 6 games, with a bye in between that. If we can win 3 of those 6 games, Rob, 3 of the 6, we'll make the finals. We've got to win 3 of 6 though, because I think the back end. I think this is going to be a tough. And the reason I say it is because there's some very tough games in there. Obviously, the next 2 games are a little bit kind of North Queensland away, Penrith at home, bye, and then but you've got like New Zealand away. You've got the Roosters the Roosters are coming. Let me say that. I think they're going to be the big smoky coming out of this origin period in particular than the back end of the year. So we've got some tough games. We've got Manly at Brookvale. So we've got some tough games coming up. If we can somehow win 3 of those 6, we'll make the finals.
I hope you're right, mate. And maybe have you got a spare bedroom or something? Maybe I need to come and live with you and get some of that positivity.
No. I didn't say we will win. I didn't say we will win. I said
I don't even think that. I think if we win 3 of our next 6, we're honestly, mate, right now I'm just hoping to not finish in the bottom 3. That's because this can really turn.
If we win 3 of our next 6, that takes us 20. But it's not, because, like I said to you, and I've tried to preach this since day dot. Like, if you win one week and then lose the next, it's the same as losing one week and winning the next. You know what I mean? Like, you're
missing my point. I feel like this week represents. We don't need Lachlan Galvin. That's what this means. It's. I don't want that stigma of like, here we go again. We lost to Parramatta, who looked like a basket case with the exception of Moses coming back. That's what happened last time Galvin wasn't in the team. We need to make a statement this coming Saturday night.
Yeah, that's why I said to you, if Latu was playing, I'd agree with you, but he's not playing. But my point being, if we win 3 of the next 6, okay, it takes us to 20 points. With 8 rounds to go, you then got to go 50-50 again to back end of the year. So you just got to go 4 from 8. That's my point. So, and that's how you have to break. Like, I've tried to do that. Like, if you go back now and if you go back to before round 1, and I said to you after 11 rounds, Rob, heading into the bye, we've won 5 games. Without knowing what you know, with Galvin, all the drama, all that sort of stuff, or even thinking there was going to be drama, we're going to have injuries. If I told you we won 5 games, would you take it?
Yeah, based on last year, yeah. But having seen what's happened, mate, we should be 9 out of 11.
But
if I want to be objective, maybe 8 out of 11, because even though we won, we probably shouldn't have beaten St George, but we could have easily won 9 out of our 11 games easily. I think the difference between making finals and not making them is losing those close games. That's the difference.
Yeah, but we won some of those close games as well. We have won a couple of those close games, so I think they both work for each other. But look, let's that's what we need to do. I didn't say I'm positive. I didn't say I think they're going to do it. I'm just saying that's got to be our target, and what that does is it allows us a bigger picture. So, like I said, if we do lose this week and win next week, well, that's 1 out of 2, and then we can hopefully focus on another 1 out of 2, and then another 1 out of 2, and that's the way you keep yourself in the game. That's the way, and I'm trying to explain it from a coach's perspective so that it gives you insight as to how you don't let the roller coaster of emotion keep going up and down, because if you do, well, then your mind goes up and down. So if you can build a little block by block, and like I said, if you can win this first game, well, then you know that realistically, okay, well, all we need is 2 out of the next 5, but if we can keep winning, well, it'll even put us further ahead. But if we lose this week and we go by the Rob Bashara way of doing things, well, we're not going to back up the following week because we're going to think it's the most important game of the year. I'm joking.
I know. But you know what I'm trying to say.
I do.
Again, I'd rather win. I'd rather lose this week and win the next 3 games after that. But in terms of what it represents, the significance of I think it's really important for the club. I think the members, supporters, fans, we all need that feeling like it's not hopeless. Probably Richo's handcuffed because of what's going on. Like I know every time I hear Shane Richardson speak, I feel more comfortable about all things West Tigers, and the fact that he's probably got to be silent at the moment, whether it's over legal action or just trying to get this over the line before he can speak or whatever. I think it's really important to hear from Richo. But yeah, right now, I'm not going to lie, mate. My confidence is down, and whether people like that or not, I can't help how I feel. Like, it's just, when I've been confident, I've been confident. But right now, just, ripping a good young player from our team, granted, he's not setting the world on fire, but I will say that I don't think he's turned it up at any stage. All the people that said he's not having a go and stuff like that, just watch his try-saving tackle on Tom Hazelton at Leichhardt when the whole world was meant to boo him that day. Like, the guy is professional enough to at least keep playing, whether he's an entitled person or selfish or whatever you may want to call him. He's still a professional enough to show up on the field, and knowing that he doesn't get on with certain people, whether that's his doing, which it seems to be, or not. But anyway, mate, I hope we can move on. We're going to turn you into pumpkins because it's about midnight now, Adel. But thank you very much for this. We cancelled it and we put it back on again, but at least we got it out of the way and had a bit of a chat. I'm sure you've made a lot of West Tigers fans feel very comfortable. You're always good for some West Tigers therapy, and I try and undo all your good medicine. But thanks again, mate. I look forward, hopefully, to celebrating a victory against the Cowboys and saying a big FU to Lachlan Galvin, Isaac Moses, and the Canterbury Bulldogs next Saturday night. See you next week, mate.
See you, Rob. See you, everyone.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the West Tigers Life podcast. You can join us every Wednesday night live at 8:30 p.m. from the Orange Grove Hotel. A big thank you to Orange Grove Hotel for their support, as well as iChoice Home Loans. If you want to hear more from the West Tigers Life podcast, go to westtigers.com.au. That'll be our link tree, and you'll find links to all our social media, and you can sign up at our Patreon at patreon.com/WestsLife. Join us next time on West Tigers Life.